And finally, we're back. Back to a show that has had a lot of us hooked for quite some time. And if you've been here since day one, then you know it's a nice feeling to know that you discovered a hidden gem before it took off. It feels good. Plus, it's actually been a lot of fun to sit back and watch the fan base for this series just explode. I mean, the potential for this show to become something legendary is massive, in my personal opinion. I just hope we're all not disappointed in the end. But hey, season 2 is here and we got some things to talk about. And also, before I dive in, if you're new here, I have a full recap series of the entire first season of From on my channel. Just waiting on you. So if you feel like killing some time in between these episode recaps I'm going to be posting for season 2, please go on and get your ass over there and check those out. All right, but let's get into it. So here's season 2, episode 1, titled Strangers in a Strange Place. So the episode starts off with our creepy jukebox playing A Hard Rain's A Gonna Fall by Bob Dylan, a song that's got a literal and figurative meaning in this intro scene. There's literally a hard rain that comes down on Boyd, but the hidden meaning behind this song from Bob Dylan himself is that it means that there is some sort of end that's just gotta happen. I also read that he once introduced this song by saying hard rain meant something big was about to happen. Now keep in mind, I'm only discussing this song's meaning in relation to the show, and not the song's actual real life interpretations. But if you do decide to look up the many interpretations of this song, I think there might possibly be some strong hints about what's to come this season and in the future of this show. There's talks of a storm coming, the world suffering, and a hard rain cleansing it. Once again, some biblical references to add to the many other biblical references we've already came across in the show. There may be a flood coming this season or in the future, and don't forget that Boyd still has a boat key on him. Maybe he'll have to use that boat key at some point in the future. But of course, these are just my theories. I just think it's worth mentioning that song's possible significance here and why they chose it. But after seeing Boyd trying to go through his normal routine, ringing the bell through the town while a storm creeps in, his Parkinson's begins to kick in as well, and a heavy rain falls, and he hears a faint whisper right before he wakes up, still in the hole. We finally get a visual of the top of the well that he's trapped in, and we can see a roof. He attempts to climb out, but unfortunately he fails. And then we cut to the new character Algin on the bus listening to the same Bob Dylan song that we heard earlier playing in the diner. Algin wakes up and immediately we can see that he recognizes where he is. And maybe it's just me, but during the first 3 to 4 second shot where Algin wakes up, I could have sworn it sounds like ravens in the background. I'm probably just tripping, but I played that shit back 4 times, and although it's very faint, it sounds like ravens to me, just a little bit. But you guys let me know if you heard that. Also, we see as they pass the bar, Tom is the first one to see the charter bus pulling into town. Then we cut back to Algin as he starts to lose it and yells, "Stop the bus." The new funny asshole who's a series regular jumps up and tells Algin to sit the down. But of course, Algin continues to panic and tries to warn everyone about the new level of hell they just drove into. But lucky for them, Algin pukes all over the douchebag, and they are forced to now pull over at the diner because of this situation. Then we jump over to Colony House, where things pick up right after the events of season 1. We see Jade and the others outside gathering the radio equipment to take inside from the storm, and we see the light bulbs blowing out after their attempt to contact help using the radio. Inside of Colony House is chaotic in this moment, and we hear Donna yelling, telling everyone to get away from the lights and secure the windows and doors. There's a funny scene right here where Christy helps a girl with a big ass chunk of glass right in the side of her eye, and the girl is like, "There's something in my eye," and Christy's like, "Yep. Duh, you don't think I see that big ass piece of glass?" But I thought that was kind of funny. Back outside Colony House, as Jade rushes inside, he notices the charter bus parked at the diner. Things are still chaotic as hell in this moment once he gets inside, and he has to yell to get Donna's attention to tell her about the bus. Then we jump to Jim over in the basement as he searches for Tabitha, but of course she's in the tunnel with Victor. And immediately after that, we see Victor and Tabitha in the monster tunnels trying to stay quiet so they don't wake them. He informs Tabitha about where they are, what's down there, and how the boy in white led him to her. Victor tells Tabitha that he went through a tree and then he ended up down there. Then the boy in white told him where to hide. So the night of the Colony House massacre, when Victor saved Julie, he went inside the same tree as well, and that tree led him to the tunnels. Because as we all know, they don't always take you to the same place. But that's pretty nuts when you think about it. I mean, this man hid and waited in a damn cave with these flesh-eating bastards, or I don't know, organ-eating bastards, I guess you could say, just so he could wait to help Tabitha after she would eventually end up down there. So she wasn't even down there when he got there. This makes Victor a damn outstanding citizen. Now, be honest, how many of y'all would have actually waited on Tabitha, knowing that you already know the way out? I'm very curious. Down in the comments, let me know. Then they run across an old suitcase from maybe the late 60s, and there's only a white dress or a white gown inside. I'm thinking there were other clothes in there, and the monsters may have taken them to dress as humans in the beginning to blend in. I mean, hey, almost anything is still possible at this time. I mean, they have all these other things that belong to humans down there, and it seems like they're really trying to like study humans and kind of be like them, you know? Or like I've said before, they are humans and they were turned into monsters, and the humane part of them is still holding on. Then we jump back to Colony House, where we see Donna and Kenny preparing to go greet the newbies with shotguns, because it's a bus full of people this time, and breaking the news to all of them at once has a much higher chance of going wrong than just a small family of people or just one person. So I think Donna's decision to take the shotguns was the right move. Back at the diner, the people are forced to wait outside in the rain because the diner is locked, and during this time we see one of the new series regulars just dancing her ass off in the rain. She's like, oh, the rain, and oh, the sun, and look at the sky. So maybe this woman just loves the outdoors, or she is high as hell. But yeah, either way, I thought that was pretty funny. Then on the bus, we see Christy's fiance, Marielle, checking out Algin, and she asked him if he knows where he is, and he's like, well, shit, do you? So yeah, Algin is our new special character. And afterwards, we see our new hot-headed douchebag pop up, and he gives Algin a hard time. But he's funny, and I think the humor is always welcomed in this show. Plus, he's a new series regular as well, so him and Algin are probably going to have a few run-ins like this throughout the season. Then we cut to Ellis chasing Julie because she wanted to run to town to find her father, Jim, since he took off running in the season 1 finale to try to save Tabitha in the hole after what he heard on the radio. You know, that guy saying, your wife shouldn't be digging that hole, Jim, you know. So then Tom runs over to approach the new people with Ellis, and Ellis tries his best to get them to hold tight until Donna and Kenny arrives. Over at the Matthews house, Julie finally catches up with Jim, and she finds out that her mom Tabitha was in the hole when the floor collapsed, and Jim tells her to go find help. So she runs over to the diner, and Tom gathers some people to go help. During this time, Donna and Kenny pulls up to get the situation under control. Then we cut back to the basement with Jim to see that Tom has finally arrived with help. Jim finds out about the bus, and Tom finds out that Tabitha was digging in the basement to see where the wires led, since he was the one to provide her with the digging tools in the first place. But he never knew what she was using them for until now, I think. Also, I gotta point out how Tom acknowledges what I'm sure a lot of us have been thinking since the end of season 1, which is if she was digging the hole in the basement, why did the first floor above her collapse? It's almost like some kind of force purposely wanted to trap her underneath. You know, it just didn't make a lot of sense the way it happened, and I'm pretty sure this was intentional by the creators, especially since Tom now acknowledges it in the season 2 premiere and says, well, if she was digging down here, why the hell is that hole up there? Like, why is that even there? So I'm glad he acknowledges that. Then we cut back to the tunnels where we see Victor telling Tabitha that they both have to be brave to make it out. And we see the monsters laying around sleeping like they've been up all night partying and now they're hungover. During this time, we jump back to Boyd in the well, and he suddenly hears a voice ask if he's real. And he's like, yeah, I'm real. Goddamn, are you real? Then the man tells Boyd that he'll help him if he promises to return the favor. And then he throws down a rope. Back at Colony House, we check in on Jade, where a woman approaches him and asks him if he thinks they made something angry, since the lights exploded and the storm came out of nowhere. But Jade's not in the mood to talk about it, and he's like, look, I got one more rolling paper left and I'm about to get high. So she says okay and walks away sadly because obviously she's ready to keep trying to find a way out. But Jade's not ready just yet, and the man's plan just failed, so he needs a little time to reset, you know? After she walks away, some supernatural shit happens to Jade and he sees the symbol again, along with a creepy-ass ventriloquist dummy that we have never seen before. It is something else that screams at Jade. The supernatural shit just enjoys torturing Jade. I mean, it's always screaming at him, shooting at him. It just enjoys torturing him. Poor Jade. Then we see little Ethan talking to Kenny's mom about how things begin to get really scary when you get to the end of a quest. Also in this moment, we see Jade heading outside to smoke, and Ethan follows him to give him a pep talk about not giving up. In this moment, he does spark something in Jade, and then he proceeds to ask Ethan which room is Victor's room. Then we cut back to Victor and Tabitha in the tunnels where we see all of this old stuff lying around and more sleeping monsters. During this time, Victor sees the same ventriloquist dummy that we just saw with Jade a little earlier, but he reacts like it actually means something to him, and then he takes off running, leaving poor Tabitha in the dark. All of this scared the hell out of Victor, but now the roles are reversed and Tabitha becomes the one to help Victor. Back at Colony House in Victor's room, Jade explains to Ethan that he's searching through Victor's things to see if he can find the symbol that's been driving him crazy. He wants to see if Victor has ever drawn the symbol. After Jade shows Ethan that old picture of Victor, Ethan now understands what Jade is looking for. He tells Jade that now he needs to figure out if the symbol is good or bad, because sometimes symbols make you do bad things. And Jade kind of sits there and ponders on that for a second, and he's kind of just looking like, this is a weird kid, but like, oh shit, I didn't think about that. Which, hey, you gotta hand it to little Ethan, you know, because he's looking at the full picture here. Back over at the diner with the newbies, Donna tries her best to explain how things work in the town to Bacta, which is I think how you pronounce her name, so sorry for the mispronunciation earlier. But of course she's not buying it, and Donna's more reserved way of trying to get through to the newbies isn't working. Then we cut back to Marielle and Algin as she tries to help him inside the diner to get some water, and then he has a seizure, which I talk about a lot more in my Everything You Need to Remember Before Watching Season 2 video, so go check that out. But the seizures are quite interesting and they're quite important. But while Algin is having a seizure, the Matthews house begins to shake and eventually it crumbles to the ground. I'm not sure, but these two things seem to be connected to me since they're both happening at exactly the same time. In this moment, we find out that Jim, Tom, the douchebag, and another new character are all trapped underneath the rubble. Luckily, the douchebag makes it out, but the other three are still trapped. Then we jump back to Victor and Tabitha in the monster tunnels, where they find some weirdly stacked stones and a ball that comes rolling from a little caged hole that knocks them all over. Tabitha walks over to check it out, and one of the little bald-headed dirty children pops up and scares the shit out of her. In this moment, she screams loud enough to wake up all of the other monsters, but at the same time, she notices that there is water on the ground, and she follows the trail of water to hopefully lead them out. Also, did you guys notice that the monsters sleep in their true form? Usually we don't tend to see this form until they're close enough to actually attack a victim, and besides that, they're usually just disguised as humans, so I thought that was worth pointing out. Back above ground with the newbies, Christy and her fiancée Marielle finally see each other after what I believe has been several months, from what I remember from season 1, but in this moment of their warm embrace, Kenny's heart falls into his ass, but he has to remember that this is not over yet. There's a lot of possibilities here, folks. Then we cut back to a brief shot of Boyd still spending the majority of this episode climbing out of this damn well. Then we jump back to see that Victor and Tabitha have finally made it out of the monster tunnels and are on their way back to town. Back in town at the diner and the Matthews house, things are chaotic as hell. The sun is going down and there is not enough time for everyone to get Jim, Tom, and the other guy from underneath the rubble, so they are forced to leave them there overnight, hoping that the monsters won't find them. At the same time, Bacta is still trying to round up all the passengers and get them back on the bus, while Donna is still trying to tell her that that is a bad idea. So just like the Donna we all know, she loses her patience because they are running out of time, and she goes and grabs the shotgun and shoots out the bus tires. This is kind of a good thing and a bad thing at the same time, because Kenny also tries to help Donna by shooting a couple of warning shots in the air, but this makes a lot of the passengers run off in fear to go hide throughout the town, while the rest of them that decided to listen out of fear are actually escorted into the diner to safety. Over at the crumbled Matthews house, everyone covers the rubble to hide Jim and the others before rushing over to spend the night in the diner. And then the episode ends with Boyd finally making it out of the well and meeting the old mystery man that's relieved that he has a gun because he wants Boyd to kill him, put him out of his misery. But this guy is from a different time because he points out that Boyd has a gun and it looks different from the ones he remembers. So I'm thinking when Boyd went through that tree, instead of just going to a different place, he also ended up in a different time period. And this is the first time we've ever seen anyone in the show time travel. I mean, yeah, we've seen visions of people from a different time period and the monsters do dress differently, but this is the first time we've seen someone who's alive from a different time period actually interact and talk with one of our characters. The mystery man is chained to the wall, and it would seem that he is a prisoner in some sort of torture chamber, and that's where episode 1 of season 2 ends. I'll be damned, it is nice to be back. So you guys already know the routine. Please let me know down below what you guys think of the season 2 premiere. We already know that Algin is special, so I can't wait to see what he's going to bring to the table. Do you guys really think that Jim, Tom, and the other new guy are really going to be safe underneath the rubble overnight? If not, who do you guys think we're going to lose? Very curious. Also, all of those old items like the TV, the bicycle, the suitcase, and the ventriloquist dummy, what do you guys think those things mean? And why do you guys think the monsters took those items underground? Maybe it's still some part of their humanity that's still fighting to get out, possibly, and still wanting to be in like the routine of a human. As always, yes, we have more questions, but you guys have to admit that it's kind of fun to talk about. But I'll catch you guys down in the comments, and also, thank you for watching.